Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you how to make a Disney-inspired wreath using these wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. I was really excited when I found these two smaller wreath forms for $1, and I am using my Tim Holtz scissors so I can cut through some wire later in the video. I'm also going to use what I realized are wire cutters. I thought they were just, I don't know, to use to bend wire, but I realized I can cut with those. And then I also bought a bunch of different stems from the Dollar Tree. In hindsight, I wish I had bought more yellow. As I was making the video or making the wreath, I realized that I wish I had a little bit more yellow or that cream color to kind of, just evenly spread out throughout the wreath. But I was still very happy with the final product. But if you are doing this project, I would recommend to get a little more yellow than you expect to use. I was happy that they had these really cool leaves as well. And so I use all of those to make this wreath. I'm also going to use my glue gun and my glue sticks. And I always keep my glue gun on this little tray from the Dollar Tree. It's actually a cutting board, but I keep my glue gun on it so that when the glue drips, it drips onto the tray and not my table. So I just lay it out to see where I want the ears to lie. And it was very important for me to make sure that the ears were going to lay flat. So when it's on the door, it's actually not pushing against the door. If I had just connected this as is, you could kind of see that the ears would have pushed back. And so I used this wire. I don't remember what gauge it is, but it's a pretty thin, flexible wire that I use for some other projects, like little headband wraps. But I use this wire to add some more sturdiness to this wreath. And so I glue it initially in place, and I just do that by gluing at the spots where the two wire frames connect. I let that cool, and then I go in and I use that wire to wrap around and just make it a little more sturdy. And I do also end up gluing the wire, that gold wire, down to the wire frame. There's a lot of wire. How many times can I say wire in this video? Count. Let's see how many times. So I let that one side cool, and then I do the exact same thing on the other side, and I am very, very liberal with my glue. I'm going to have to replace my a glue stick a couple times in this video, and a little trick that I learned is to add a dab of glue on the end of your glue stick before you place it into your glue gun. And that connects the two glue sticks together so you don't have to press on the end of the glue stick. And don't worry, I do use a lot of glue in here, and I know if you have ever used a glue gun before, there are those hideous strings that are just inevitable. I'll show you a way at the very end to get rid of those glue stick strings. So right here, I'm literally watching glue dry. It's super fun. So once the glue has dried on the wires, I go ahead and wrap the wires around pretty tightly, just trying to get it through different areas on the two wire frames. And then I use my pliers to go ahead and make sure that I tuck the little sharp metal in so I don't poke myself later. And I do the same thing on both sides, and I add glue to all the points that meet up, and it just makes it really, really sturdy. So now I'm just going through and I'm picking out the top 8 different bundles that I wanted to use. Originally I was trying to keep this under $10. I did end up using a total of 12 different stems, so the total was, I'm sorry, not 12. I ended up using a total of, I think 13. So it came out to a $15 wreath. But originally I didn't know if I was going to use the wire that was actually part of the leaf itself to wrap around the wire frame. And so I was cutting it a little bit longer. I was using my Tim Holtz scissors because it makes it fairly easy to cut through, although you will see that I do struggle a bit. But I wanted to show you this because if you have just regular scissors, you can bend the wire, just kind of cut the plastic and then bend it a bit, and then you'll have to bend it back and forth, but you can definitely get the flower off of the main stem. I end up asking my husband if he has any wire cutters, and he says, yes, I do. So you'll see in a minute that he brings me these big wire cutters, and I realize that it's the exact same thing as what I had in my hand originally. I just didn't realize that the center point was the actual wire cutter itself. So this is my epiphany. So everything goes a lot faster after this. So as I'm cutting the flowers, I'm kind of laying them around the wreath where I anticipate that I'll end up placing them. And again, I'm doing this because I'm trying to see how many stems that I really need to start off with. And so I'm just kind of spreading out the colors. Sorry about the lighting. My light died. I had to bring in another one. And if I were to make this again, I would probably start off with just the big flowers that I have and place those flowers first and then kind of go in with all of the other leaves. But it just kind of depends on whatever your preference is. But again, I wish that I had bought a couple more of those cream colored flowers or the sunflowers or the yellow flowers. And even though I'm cutting these off right now, you'll see eventually that I decide that I'm not going to use the wires because it didn't add anything to it for the extra effort. So if I were doing this again, I would just pull the leaves off the way you start seeing me do eventually, where I just pull them off. So I'm at the point where I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of what colors are going to go where. Here you can see I'm wrapping the wire, and then I just realize it's not going to add that much to it, so I just start gluing and cutting the other flowers. And I'm just placing them where I think they should live. I put some glue on the wire frame itself, and then I place the flower on the wire frame. And I do this all the way around. And as I'm working around, I'm also making sure that I'm spreading out the colors evenly, and I'm filling the wire to where I don't see the wire from the top. I do have these little embellishment pieces that I add here, but I save most of those to add at the end. And right now what I'm doing is I realize that I have just a couple more of the yellow and the beige or cream colored flowers. So I'm placing those first to make sure that I'm spreading them evenly around the wreath. And then I'm going in and filling in with some of the leaves or the stems that, the leaf. I'm going back in and filling in the leaf to different areas to just give it a little bit of pop of color and also to fill it in. And here I'm arranging the flowers where I want them to be. I felt like there was a little too much orange of the same color flower next to each other, so I added a couple of embellishments in between to separate it. And that's the really nice thing about making a wreath. You can place the flowers wherever you want. If you see that there is too much of one color in one area, you can add some little embellishments in between or the flowers like this, and it just separates it and adds some dimension to your wreath and color, and you can really be creative. And I really, really like the big leaves because they actually fill up a lot of space. And so you'll see that at some points I start using it to actually fill in where I can see the wire frame. And that helps to just fill it in when I was really running out of those flowers. And the right ear already, just looking at it right now, I can see there's a lot of orange together in one spot. So I'm gonna fix that in just a bit with a couple of embellishments. And even though those leaves are mostly orange, because they have some dimension and color to them, it breaks it up. It adds a little more red in there. And then adding just the green leaves wherever I feel those colors need to be broken up really make a big difference. It's also helpful to pick up the frame just as I did, so you can see any of the bare spots that you miss looking at it just from the top view. Because once this wreath is up, if you're standing from the side, you can see some of those holes. So it's just as important to pick up the wreath and look at it to see where you need to fill in. And don't be afraid with any of the flowers to cut them apart. Like these berries, they came on a stem, and they came in like clusters of 3. You can keep those together, but I actually prefer to cut them up and then use them in different parts of the wreath. So you'll see that in just a bit. And that, like that leaf right there, it actually came on a set of 3, but I just cut them apart because I really just wanted a pop here and there. So don't be afraid to cut those apart and place those exactly where you want them to be. And I ended up not using those pieces. I just felt like it's going to be a little much for the wreath that I already had. So this is the finished product. And at this point, I could see that I had all those little glue stick strings, but don't worry, there's a way to solve that. You just use your heat gun. Take your heat gun, turn it on, and just kind of quickly go over different areas. And you can see that I don't know if you can see it in the video. I can see it when I'm doing it. You can see all of the little glue stick strings just kind of melt away. So I just do a good once over on the entire wreath with that, and then you don't have any other glue stick strings to worry about. And if you move quickly, you don't have to worry about reheating the glue that you used on the wreath itself. So just be sure to move quickly. And here's the final product. I was really happy with it, and it looks so pretty on our pantry door. And I think I may make a couple more to put on our front door and back door because they really look cool and are fun and are easy to make. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Give this a thumbs up if you liked it. Please subscribe and follow, and thanks for being here.